So today we are going to talk about 5 things that will surprise you in labor and delivery. And who better to tell us those things than someone who has spent years and years in labor and delivery. So Hillary, thanks for being here today. I'm excited to hear these 5 things.
Yep, lots of surprise patients, just being surprised by these things. So I think it'd be awesome to know them in advance.
For sure. I think that knowing these things ahead of time, as with life with a newborn, helps people feel more prepared. So start us out right now with number 1. What should we know?
Okay, so something that is hospital wide. My mom got her knee replaced, and the hospital is just a slow place. Now, I think we all picture we're going to come in and we're going to have our baby within minutes of getting there. That doesn't happen. There is a lot of hurry up and wait. So there will be times where a lot of things are happening. The nurse is asking you lots of questions, and we put in your IV, and then we leave. And then it's just a lot of waiting.
So, and you're still pregnant during that time. Still pregnant, still waiting. Okay, lots of waiting.
And possibly in pain. So there's just a lot of waiting. So I always recommend people load up their iPad or bring cards. We do have a TV, but daytime TV is a bit of a crapshoot. So yeah.
Right. So come with activities that will help to pass the time. Okay, definitely good to know. What's number 2?
Yeah. Okay. So I think people think nurses can kind of just do whatever the heck they want, which we sort of can. We skirt this pretty often, but doctor's orders are number 1. So if your doctor really says you can't have an epidural or you aren't supposed to eat, we have to follow those orders. And so I think a lot of people just think we can make whatever choice we want, but we really can't. We have to follow doctor's orders. That is literally our job, is to follow the doctor's orders. So
okay. So doctor's orders trump everything else.
Yeah. And that's why you kind of have to talk with your doctor. If you have plans in your birth plan or whatever, talk with your doctor in advance, because I'm just like his minion. I'm not in charge, even though I really
So if that were you, like what week are you like, I really want to talk through these things with my doctor. This obviously isn't something that's happening at your week 39 appointment, because you could deliver before then. Like, when is this happening?
If there are things you're adamant about, like if, let's say you've had a C-section and you want a VBAC, talk about that. Number 1, you're talking about that at the first visit, if there's stuff that you're adamant about. But if it's other small things, 30 weeks, I would say, is a good time to start reviewing it with them, around the time that you take your diabetes test, which is 28 weeks. So after you do that, then, you could start to review it with them and just ask them. Because a lot of people come in thinking, oh, I'm not going to get an IV, but they've never talked with their doctor about that. And of course, we're going to talk about that secret later, but you could refuse. But then it kind of puts us in a weird situation, because the doctor wants you to have it. You've never talked to them about it. And then, yeah.
Right. Okay. So they need to be talking about these things early on. Okay. And what's number 3?
Okay. You can plan in advance in labor and delivery. There are so many parts of the hospital that you can't plan in advance. Most people aren't like, if I have a heart attack, I would like to eat a granola bar.
Right. Okay.
So it's such a benefit that you can plan in advance. And yet so many people don't plan in advance. They don't educate themselves at all, or they just read the internet and are filled with all sorts of things. And so it's really
important. What's an example of something that's like makes life so much easier if people would have planned that in advance?
Well, just knowing like what's going to happen. Like with COVID, especially right now, people need to know like who can come in the hospital, when they can leave, stuff like that. And some people are just oblivious to that, and they think their mom can come and all those sorts of things. So, calling the hospital in advance, of course, taking a prenatal class and just getting used to what might happen. I always call it is a roller coaster. Labor and delivery is always going to be a roller coaster. But if you don't have any planning or education in advance, it's like doing it in the dark. Now, I love Space Mountain, but I don't know that I'd want to ride it while in pain, having a baby.
Right. True. Okay, perfect. And we'll talk at the end more about well, why don't you tell us now? You have a prenatal class, right? Can you just give us like a little blurb about that? Just because I think you're such a resource.
I taught prenatal classes for my hospital, and I think I kind of ignored them probably the first 12 years of my hospital career, because honestly, a lot of people don't take them. But then I started to watch the people who had taken them, not even just from me, just from anyone, how much more comfortable they were in making choices and decisions and just knowing kind of what to expect. Again, you don't have to it's not going to take hours and hours and hours of time. My class can be done in 3 hours, and you can be prepared in that period of time. And then you just are so much happier and things are so much less stressful.
And in your class, nobody even has to walk into the hospital. They're doing this all from their couch.
Yes, right.
Woo!
That's right.
Or score, their bed, where everyone happens to be.
Or the toilet. I don't know where you want to be, but you can do it wherever you want.
Is that part of your marketing plan? Take my class from the toilet. Okay, so the next one, let's hear it.
Okay, the nurse
surprise
does everything. So a lot of people are like, when am I going to see my doctor? And I'm like, when the baby's born. Sometimes they'll come in and they'll break your water because we're not allowed to break water in the state that I'm in. Some states will allow you to break water. But the nurse pretty much does everything, and we're going to start pushing with you. And one of the things you learn most as a labor and delivery nurse in the beginning is when to call the doctor, because you don't want to deliver the baby on your own, although we have. So just don't be surprised when the nurse is literally doing all of the work. And a lot of times afterwards, the people are like, why am I paying the doctor so much money? You've done everything. Because literally they just come in, then they leave me their bloody gloves and they walk out of the room. Like, it's all me, baby.
God bless nurses. Okay, so so the people who are waiting, thinking like the doctor's going to be here, this support system, the nurse is your right-hand man.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get concerned because maybe their doctor's not on or things like that. But it's more important that you have a doctor that's like fresh and available to you versus one who isn't as available or, worked last night, because the nurse is truly doing all the things. So you aren't going to see him that long. You will see him the next day after you have your appointment. And a lot of times then you see your own doctor for that type of thing. So don't freak out if your doctor's not on, because literally, I don't want to say they're not that important, but sometimes they're not that important.
Right. But it's not going to throw the whole thing. Yeah. Because there are people who are like, okay, I'm going to schedule a C-section because I know I want to do this when my doctor's there. And you're saying that doesn't play as big of a role.
Well, sure. I mean, if you're doing a C-section, most likely they will schedule it when they're on, because doctors like to take care of their own patients.
Or an induction, really I guess, would have been better. But yeah.
Yes, and even then, if you're doing an elective thing, the doctor really tries to do it when they're on, but they don't always. It just depends on how big their practice is, how many times they take calls, stuff like that.
Okay, perfect. And so number 5,
and the most important and surprising thing is that you can say no whenever you want. Like when I was talking about the IV, you can refuse it. Now, my job is going to be telling you why you should get it, like trying to sell it to you, because as a nurse, I love it when my patients have an IV, because if anything goes wrong, I have access really quickly and I can, take care of it in the manner that I would prefer. Versus if you don't have an IV and there's an emergency, then I'm rushing around and trying to get things done. So I much prefer to have an IV in, and yeah. But you can refuse it if you want. You can refuse. I had a doctor the other day say, well, she can't eat. And I was like, I know that's the order, but she has food in her room. I've told her why she shouldn't eat, but she is a grown adult. She can make her own choice if she wants to eat or not. That is up to her, not up to me. And
so when they say you can't eat, you can say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when they say you can't eat anything, you can say like, no, I actually am going to eat.
Yeah. You can do whatever the heck you want.
Look, my mind's blown.
The only one who is stuck in doctor's orders is me. I can't give you food, right? I could get in trouble for that, I guess. Although I think it would be kind of hard if you were like, I want juice. And the nurse was like, no, I don't know what happened then. I guess I would say no. But, pretty much everything you refuse. You don't want a vaginal exam right now? Say no. You don't want your water broken? Say no. You don't want to lay in the bed? You want to walk around? Say no. Now, all of those things are going to come with a boatload of education, especially like being on the monitor, because, we are stuck with a great deal of liability when you're not following what our policies and procedures are. And so we're required to educate you and then spend a lot of time charting exactly what we said to you. But you can really do whatever the heck you want.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions that we're going to follow up with. I put out on Facebook that I was open to asking. I was going to have access to a labor and delivery nurse, and did anyone have any questions? So let's get to them. But I just wanted to thank you so much for being here. We'll be following up with the questions. Hillary, you are a gem. You are full of knowledge, and we're so, so thankful to have you.
Thanks so much, Valerie. Thanks for having me.